Reggie has it slapped away by Rice, gets it back, finds Bryant.
Throughout the preseason, while Brian Shaw sat on the sidelines, D. Brown took charge of the point guard position.
Great play by D. Brown.
On the break, D. Nice catch by Reggie Lewis.
However, 2 days before opening night, D suffered a torn cartilage in his left knee and underwent surgery that would sideline him until February.
This is the first major injury I ever had, so it's hard dealing with the differences of not being able to play when you're supposed to be playing.
The injury left the team's point guard position in the hands of 8-year NBA veteran John Bagley. Baggs was surely capable of handling the job when healthy, but questions surrounded his new assignment. Bagley last appeared in an NBA game on May 6, 1990, when the Celtics lost to the Knicks in Game 5 of those playoffs. Tendinitis of the right knee and subsequent knee surgery put Baggs on the shelf for the entire 90-91 season. Compounding his recovery was the impression that he was not in good enough shape after being sidelined for over 16 months. Opening night arrived on November 1st, and the Celtics roster was being juggled up until that day. Kevin McHale, who sat out the entire preseason, was suited up and ready for action. Kevin Gamble arrived in town 1 day before the regular season after missing camp due to contract negotiations. Larry Bird was ready to start his 13th NBA season alongside the elder statesman of the league, 38-year-old Robert Parrish. Next to these two future Hall of Famers in the opening night lineup was first-round draft choice Rick Fox from North Carolina. Rick became the first Celtic rookie to start on opening night since 1979, when the man from French Lick, Indiana, first appeared in a Celtic uniform. The starting guards were reliable Reggie Lewis at the 2 spot and 31-year-old veteran John Bagley at the point.
Oh, nice look, Baggs.
Bagley had it spotted all the way.
6 on the shot clock. Rick Fox a steal. Up to Bagley.
That's got to be the key play of this ball game to date.
The Celtics came away with a 111-108 victory, and while not a classic Celtic win, it still got things off in the right foot for the season. John Bagley, in his first game since 1990, dished out 10 assists, and Larry Bird led the team in scoring with 23.
With the new guys that came in, and Kevin hadn't played and Gamble hadn't practiced with us, I thought we did a pretty good job.
The C's next game would be on the road against Washington. While the Bullets had struggled the past few years, they always were a tough nemesis for Boston. As usual, a victory in the Cap Center would be hard to come by for either team. But the star of the night was a guard from Boston College.
But Adams has yet to miss.
Produced an excellent shooting opportunity. Adams!
Newly acquired Michael Adams showed the Bullets fans his worthiness as a player as he exploded for 29 points in the first half on 12 for 13 from the floor. Washington had an 8-point lead at halftime, but the Celtics wouldn't quit.
Goes to McHale. Hammond's on him. His fall away will go. Boston has taken the lead. That's the first.
With 20 seconds left in regulation and the Celtics down by 1, Larry Bird showed that he had recovered from his summertime back surgery. However, the game was not over as the Bullets still had one more chance.
They go to Grant. Bird gets on him. His Hammond's left alone. It ties it up.
The game went into overtime where the smallest man on the court took over once again.
Adams lines up a 3. Yes!
That shot put the Bullets up for good as they walked away with a 126-118 victory. Michael Adams finished the night with 40 points and 11 assists, including 5 three-pointers. With 2 of the Celtics' top 3 guards on the sidelines, the team scrambled to find adequate backups to relieve Reggie Lewis and John Bagley. First, former Bullet Larry Robinson was signed, and a few days later, Kevin Pritchard joined the club. Pritchard made a good impression on the team by being able to play both guard positions. He also led the team with 8 assists in their overtime loss to Washington. When Brian Shaw was placed on the injured list, the Celtics signed 13-year veteran Ricky Green to be a steadying influence in the backcourt.
I've been a pretty good defensive player all my career, and you know, I know what I have to do to stay in this league. I've still got my legs. I still got pretty good quickness.
The Celtics' third game of the year was in Miami, where the ever-improving Heat proved to be a tough foe. Good defense highlighted the night as the game seesawed for the entire 48 minutes. Reggie Lewis became the Celtics' latest point guard as he guided the C's for the last 6 minutes of the game.
They go to Lewis quickly. Bird has it. Fox.
Yes.
Good ball movement on the up quick.
Reggie tied the game at 87, and 2 Rick Fox free throws gave Boston the lead as Miami failed to convert their last shot from the field. The next night, the Celtics were back home to face the world champion Chicago Bulls. The game marked the 500th consecutive sellout for the Celtics at the Garden, but the night belonged to Michael Jordan.
A lot of fakes and the scoop shot for 2.
Oh, what a play.
Air Jordan finished with 44 points, and B.J. Armstrong chipped in with 22 as he replaced an injured John Paxson in the starting lineup. The Celtics had jumped out to a 9-point lead after 1, but then missed 10 straight shots to start the second quarter as the Bulls exploded on a 20-3 run.
Michael!
The Bulls walked away with this one, 132-113.
I like playing in the old stadiums. I like playing in Chicago Stadium. I like playing in the Boston Garden. It's just something about the history that just gets me riled up to play here. And the competition's always going to be great, and I love playing against good competition. And I'm always eager to play here.
The Celtics' record stood at 2-2, but any regard for basketball fell into the background on November 7, 1991. The entire nation was in shock as Magic Johnson announced his retirement from the game due to testing positive for the HIV virus.
I plan on going on, living for a long time, bugging you guys like I've always have. So you'll see me around. I plan on being with the Lakers in the league. Hopefully David will have me.
Larry Bird was very affected by the news of Magic Johnson. It took 2 days for him to talk about it. But the next time he stepped onto the parquet floor, he expressed a special tribute for his longtime rival and friend.
Bird behind the back to Lewis.
Well, if I ever had an idol, he was probably the idol that I had, because he plays the game the way that I want to play the game, and he approaches the game the way I like to approach the game. Very serious, have some fun while you're out there and get the job done. It just don't seem fair and it don't seem right. I'll see him, and I'm sure he'll be very visible around the league, but all I can remember is I hit my last jumper on him.
By the end of the first quarter, the Celtics had garnered a 12-point lead against the Hawks, including 16 transition points. However, just as in previous games, as the fourth quarter approached, the Celtics were being outplayed by their opponents. The Hawks outscored Boston by 11 in the last quarter as Dominique Wilkins finished with 36, as the Hawks went on to win 100-95. The Celtics dropped to 2-3 on the year, including 2 straight losses at home.
It just seems that we're missing something. There's some ingredient that we just don't have right now, and we're shorthanded to begin with, but we need everyone to carry their load right now.
The Celtics were suddenly in a very unfamiliar 6th place in the Atlantic Division. As they prepared to travel on their first extended road trip of the season, good and bad news came from Dee Brown's knee injury. First, his injury did not require removal of his cartilage, which should help him in the long run. However, by allowing it to heal on its own would require much more time, and Dee Brown would not be back before February. We'll see how the Celtics did without Dee when we return with more of Injured Pride. A look at the Boston Celtics 1991-1992 season. Things were not looking good for Boston as they took their first trip westward. The first opponent would be the Portland Trail Blazers, and any hopes of defeating the fast-breaking high flyers from the Pacific Northwest dissolved in the third quarter as Clyde Drexler keyed a 25-10 run. The Celtics shot a poor 39% from the field, and the insertion of Kevin Gamble into the starting lineup to replace rookie Rick Fox did not prove to have any great effect. The Celtics had lost 3 in a row and 4 of their last 5. Larry Bird was struggling with his shot selection, and Kevin McHale may have returned too quickly from his ankle injury. However, things began to gel on the rest of the road trip as Rick Fox scored 19 points off the bench, and Larry Bird shot 10 for 16 from the field to lead the Celtics to an easy win over the Sacramento Kings. Kevin Gamble, in his second start, picked up 16 points, and Ed Pinckney provided valuable minutes off the bench with 14 points and 8 rebounds. The success continued in Phoenix, where the team shot 56% from the field, and the players had their best defensive effort of the season.
By Gamble, beautifully. it goes to Green. Pull up by Ricky. Yes.
The Celtics were without their center, Robert Parrish, who missed the game with back spasms. But the other two All-Star veterans took up his slack. Larry Bird scored 27 points on 13 of 17 shooting, and Kevin McHale delivered 18 points by hitting 9 of 15. The big play of the game, however, was delivered by Reggie Lewis with under a minute to play.
Reggie trying to work on Hornacek, and he gets mugged. Yes! Basket goes!
The Celtics had held off the Suns and evened their season record at 4 games apiece as they headed home to face the Philadelphia 76ers and their leader, Charles Barkley. Barkley was making his first NBA appearance in uniform number 32. He switched from his traditional number 34 as a show of respect for Magic Johnson. Unfortunately for Charles, while he showed up with 28 points and 11 rebounds versus the Celtics, his teammates were virtually silent as Boston rolled to a 25-point win.
We didn't even compete. I mean, if you go out there and play hard, you don't get beat by whatever we got beat by. I don't know what the final outcome was, but it was kind of embarrassing to get beat like that.
The Celtics traveled to Charlotte the next night, where the Hornets took revenge for their opening night defeat at the hands of Boston. Larry Johnson began to show signs of his NBA potential with 27 points and 15 rebounds, as the Celtics lost the second game of back-to-back outings for the third time in 4 tries on the year. Next up was the return of Chuck Person and the Indiana Pacers to the Boston Garden for the first time since Game 5 of the 1991 playoffs. Larry Bird came prepared for a shootout as he delivered 26 points and 19 rebounds.
Well, let's see if there's any jibber-jabber going on up the court. No!
But Chuck Person was silent on the night as he scored only 2 points in 11 minutes of action before leaving the game with a sore kneecap.
Tonight was a big game for me. I'm disappointed that Chuck didn't get to play because I was looking for the matchup. I feel like I can move a little bit better this year, and I wanted an opportunity to play against him, but I know I have more opportunities to do that.
The win put the Celtics above 500 and sent them on a 5-game winning streak. A pleasant surprise in the first quarter of the season was the play of rookie Rick Fox. The 24th player selected in the draft was averaging 12 points a game.
We'll give Fox the outside 3.
Yes.
It's been a good transition so far. It's a long year, but right now the people I'm playing with has made things a lot easier.
It was also announced that Kevin McHale would miss at least 2 weeks of action at the end of November in order to give his sore left ankle some rest. Perhaps his quick return to the lineup at the opening of the season proved to be a bit hasty for Kevin. The day after Thanksgiving brought the Los Angeles Lakers to Boston for the first time without their leader, Magic Johnson. At this point of the season, the Lakers were on a 9-game winning streak, and the desire to play well for Magic outshined his absence.
Nice pass that time by Scott.
I was co-captain to Irvin. I just felt the obligation to at least try to constructively, keep the team encouraged and keep the intensity up and the morale going, and it's worked for us,
The Celtics led by 6 at the half and broke away to a 23-point victory as Larry Bird tallied 22 points and 10 rebounds to snap the Laker winning streak.
You think about it before the game, but just like he's still over there and he's going to come back in the game sooner or later, but he just didn't show up.
After a loss to Atlanta, the Celtics embarked on a 4-game win streak that put them in first place by 4.5 games. Seattle returned to town on December 13th. And for the first time since his departure in 1989, Casey Jones was not the center of attention at the game. Instead, this night was set aside to honor one of the Celtics' great stars during their 1984 and 86 championships.
And this award tonight is very deserving and appropriate ending to a great career. And we wish you the very best in the future. Thank you.
First of all, to the team, especially to the older fellas, Robert, Larry, and Kevin, and Chris Ford. I do thank you very much for the gift, and I had the time of my life and a pleasure playing with each and every one of you. Thank you very much. And to Red Auerbach, who was smart enough to make that trade for me.
Another number goes to the rafters.
The 20-point victory against Seattle marked the return of Kevin McHale, who scored 11 points in 10 minutes of action. It also was the end of Ricky Pierce's attempt to break Calvin Murphy's NBA record for consecutive free throws, as he fell 3 short by missing his first attempt of the game.
The streak is gone.
The next night, the Celtics traveled to New York, where they lost by 10. But the big news was the absence of Larry Bird. The captain of the Celtics missed his first game of the year due to lower back pain resulting from a fall at practice. Speculation as to the severity of the injury had subsided 3 days later when Larry returned for a Celtic victory in Orlando. After 2 more victories at home, the Celtics began their second extended road trip of the season. A loss in Miami and a total embarrassment at the hand of the Chicago Bulls on Christmas did not send good signals to the team as they headed to the West Coast. However, Boston looked like a different team against the Supersonics. They out-rebounded the #1 rebounding team in the league and took advantage of Casey Jones being ejected in the third quarter to secure a runaway win. The next night had the Celtics struggling once again as they lost for the 7th time in 9 tries on the second night of back-to-back games. However, the end of the road trip was near, with only the LA Clippers standing in the way.
Bird will launch a 3. Yes! Bing, bang, boom! And the Clippers want timeout as Bird has torched them for a 3. Bird pops out against Norman, launches. Yeah!
Take it home. Short plane ride back to Boston tonight.
Well, as it turned out, that would be Larry Bird's last time in a Celtic uniform for 2 months. He initially sat out 2 games as the Celtics fell to Cleveland at home and then Minnesota on the road. But when no improvement was seen, the team placed him on the injured list, where he remained until March 1st. Kevin McHale joined him on the sidelines after getting kicked in the calf in that Minnesota loss, and he sat out 15 games. Suddenly, speculation about the Celtics without the big 3 was a reality. And we'll see how the Celtics coped when we return with more of Injured Pride, a look at the Boston Celtics 1991-1992 season. The Celtics started 1992 with 2 straight losses, and in Game 3 struggled against the Sacramento Kings, but a late rally squeaked out a victory for Boston.
Good look for Pinckney.
What a play by Gamble!
Another exciting fourth-quarter comeback followed against the Knicks as Joe Klein stepped up his level of play against Patrick Ewing.
Klein and Ewing battle. Ewing, no, rebound, Klein!
Emotion was the key element to the victory as the Knicks shot 22% in the fourth quarter.
You know, you got to come up here and play 48 minutes with force, and if you don't, you're not going to win. I mean, just to win by a little bit.
The Celtics hoped for an easier game as the Minnesota Timberwolves came to town with former Celtic coach Jimmy Rogers. Boston led by 15 in the second quarter and seemed capable of winning until Robert Parrish sprained his right ankle in the third. Suddenly, the Celtics lost their direction as Minnesota ran right by them.
He gets it blocked down low, loose ball, picked up by Spencer, up to Richardson, behind the back, nice pass.
This was a big one for us, and I know Robert's out, Kevin's out, and Larry. These are great players, but we also know that there are other great players out there on that court that all were playing very well and very hard. So for us to come in here and get a win, it's huge for this young team.
As the team collapsed in the second half, point guard Brian Shaw never got off the bench. Despite struggling through most of the season, Shaw was averaging 25 minutes per game. No one knew what was going on until after the game.
We made a deal with Miami tonight. We traded Brian Shaw to the Heat in exchange for Sherman Douglas. It's an even player swap.
The return of Brian Shaw from Italy was never fully accepted by Boston fans. His turnaround from being a defensive-minded player to a penetrating guard looking for offense first did not fit into the Celtic plans. After a year of battling injuries, a fresh start in a new locale seemed like the best thing for Bryant.
I'm happy to get a fresh start. The change of scenery will do well for me, and I think it'll do well for Sherman and Boston. And I think both teams, it was a good trade for both teams.
I'm glad to be a Boston Celtic. I think that with the team they got, with the veteran and the youth, it's a great mix, and hopefully we can blend it together and try to accomplish a great deal here.
For the Celtics, the next two games against New York and New Jersey would be a foretelling of the future. For only the second and third time since 1980 have the Celtics played a game without any of the big three. The first time was a victory against Portland in 1989, but this time the results were different. Boston tried, but could not defeat either the Knicks or the Nets. Robert Parrish returned for the Celtics' next game against the 76ers and became only the 8th player in NBA history to gather 20,000 points and 10,000 rebounds.
A landmark basket for Robert Parrish.
That's something I never thought I would reach because I'm normally the fifth option on this ball club, and for me to reach 20,000 points is a big hole for me because I don't shoot a lot. So, big achievement.
The Chiefs' return sparked the Celtics into a 4-game win streak, including a 30-point, 14-rebound effort against David Robinson and the San Antonio Spurs.
Parrish for 2.
Another big factor in the success of the Celtics in January was the play of Kevin Gamble. During an 11-game stretch, Gamble averaged 22 points a game as the team looked for a consistent scorer other than Reggie Lewis.
When you know you're going to be out there, you know you're going to get your shots. You can't help but feel confident, and that's what's happening to me now.
A victory against the Pistons in their first meeting since the 1991 playoffs put the Celtics 10 games over 500 and created a greater confidence in the team. The new go-to man was 6'7" Reggie Lewis. The former Northeastern All-American was leading the club in scoring, and at the end of January was named to his first NBA All-Star game.
It's something I always wanted to be a part of, and it's finally going to happen. It took a lot of hard work, but it paid off.
As February came, so did the last of the Celtics' long road trips. Hopefully, the return of some of the injured players would help. Dee Brown, out since the beginning of the season, returned for the February 5th game at home against the Houston Rockets. Dee scored 7 points in 11 minutes and felt progress had been made as the Celtics won 98-85.
I'm pleased with what I did tonight, but you can tell I got a lot of work to do.
The Celtics left for their Texas swing, where they lost all 3 games for the first time in their history. The San Antonio game marked the return of Kevin McHale, but the 7-time All-Star looked out of sync for most of the trip.
McHale's pass knocked away. Strickland alley-oop to Robinson.
Oh, wow.
What a play by Robinson.
The next stop was the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles to face the Lakers. The Celtics also paid tribute to longtime rival Magic Johnson, who had his jersey retired to the Forum rafters.
This piece of Boston Garden parquet symbolizes your place in the hearts and mind of Celtic fans everywhere. You will never wear the green and white. You always will be a part of our family. Magic.
So I thank Larry Bird personally for bringing the best out of Magic Johnson. Because without you, I couldn't rise to the top, and I really appreciate that. That's man to man.
While Larry Bird was still not able to play, his teammates rose to the occasion and showed that Boston was not dead. Kevin McHale scored 19 points and had 8 rebounds, and Dee Brown contributed 17. Robert Parrish came up big in L.A. with 21 points and 11 rebounds on 10 for 12 shooting.
The old man can still move.
Larry Bird remained with the team as they traveled to Utah, and Boston was on to their second straight road victory until the fourth quarter.
And the Jazz get the lead.
The Celtics blew a 10-point lead and ended up not making a field goal in the fourth quarter until there were 8 seconds left in the game. Utah won 88-83 and sent the Celtics off to Golden State for a battle with Tim Hardaway.
Comes Hardaway, it's a 4-on-3.
Just toying with that.
The All-Star point guard, chosen immediately after Michael Smith in the 1989 NBA draft, lit up the Celtics for 43 points as the big three of Mullen, Hardaway, and Marciulionis held off the Celtics 117 to 112. A shining star at this point of the season for Boston was Ed Pinckney. A 16-point and career-high 18-rebound game against the Warriors elevated his confidence for the rest of the year.
Good job, Eddie Pinckney.
March 1st marked the return of Larry Bird to the parquet floor. After an absence of 2 months, Larry got right back into it.
Quick turnaround by Bird, and he hits his first 2.
Larry completed his return with 26 points and 13 rebounds. Kevin McHale showed signs of life with 14 points and 11 rebounds, and this marked the first time in 1992 that the big three were playing together.
Tonight, I was very happy to be back, and I was received very well, and I played pretty well, so we'll just go from there and see what happens.
Injury woes returned 3 nights later as Kevin McHale sat out the game with ankle stiffness. He would also miss the Clippers game at home as the Celtics won convincingly. Another victory against Orlando showed progress for the team on the road, but a key part of every team's success starts at the point guard position. For 53 of the first 56 games of the year, John Bagley stepped in and guided the team successfully despite injuries to many key players. Chris Ford always maintained that D. Brown was the Celtic point guard of the future, but Bagley held that position until D was back at full strength. As the end of February arrived, Ford decided the time was right to hand the ball club over to D. And we'll see how things transpired when we return with more of Injured Pride, a look at the Boston Celtics 1991-1992 season, right after this. When Chris Ford inserted D. Brown into the starting lineup for the first time on February 28th, he also told John Bagley that Sherman Douglas would be the backup point guard. Bagley spent the next 6 games on the bench watching as Brown and Douglas led Boston to a 4-2 record.
Reggie will go score and get a shot at a 3-point play.
In a homecoming of sorts for Sherman Douglas and Brian Shaw, the Celtics traveled to Miami to face the Heat for the first time since the trade of point guards in January. While Sherman outscored Brian on the night 14-0, the Heat came away with a 7-point win. To cap off the night, Sherman twisted his ankle with 15 seconds left in the game. The next night proved to be one the Celtics would like to forget.
By a host of Bulls.
They're toying with him.
The Celtics were out of it in the first quarter as they trailed 37-13, and the Bulls ran away with a 34-point victory. It also marked Boston's 13th loss in 16 tries at winning the second game of back-to-backs. The Celtics made their third and final appearance of the year in Hartford as they faced the New Jersey Nets on Friday the 13th of March. Boston was up by 19 points in the third quarter as they took control of the game, but New Jersey came firing back.
Petrovic, bingo, the Nets in the lead, 96-94, Celtics timeout.
Drazen Petrovic tallied a career-high 39 points, including 3 threes.
I was making almost every shot, and I was just right, to get to pull this game for us.
3 straight losses put the Celtics in a precarious position as they faced the Portland Trail Blazers on March 15th. The Celtics led by 2 after 3 quarters, but had lost another point guard. D. Brown left the game in the third period after being hit in the thigh. With Sherman Douglas on the injured list because of an ankle sprain, Chris Ford was back to John Bagley. And once again, Bags delivered.
Drexler lost the dribble. And Bagley gets to it. Here's Powers.
Bagley led the Celtics down the stretch as they cut a 7-point deficit to 3 with 7 seconds to go.
Drexler all over him. He fires. It's a three-pointer. And he's tied the game.
Well, it was luck because I felt I got fouled on the shot, and it was like a line drive, and I was surprised it went in.
As the game went to overtime, the Blazers took control and could have wrapped it up if they didn't shoot 71% from the line. However, the mystique of Boston Garden was present on the Ides of March.
And now Gamble for Bagley, looking to tie it. Here's Gamble. Yes! Off the buzzer! And we go to a second overtime.
Finally, in the second overtime, Portland stopped making shots, and the Celtics went on an 8-0 run behind the leadership of Larry Bird. By the end of the day, Larry Bird had his first triple-double of the year. 49 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 assists in 54 minutes of play.
He doubled up Larry. He found the open man. If we let him play one-on-one, he scored on the jump shot. He scored on the hook. He got to the free throw line. He just did it all offensively.
After an emotional letdown allowed the Milwaukee Bucks to rout the Celtics by 21 points, the team returned home to face the squad with the third-best record in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dee Brown returned from his thigh injury and played 46 minutes, mainly because of John Bagley's foot injury. With the score tied and less than a minute to play, the Celtics went to work.
Bird on a cut to D. Yes, and a foul.
The Celtics' next stop was their first visit of the year to the Palace at Auburn Hills. The Celtics had lost 13 of their last 15 road games, and the Pistons were on a roll with 8 wins in their last 9 games. The Celtics led by 10 with 2 minutes left, but Detroit suddenly woke up.
He launches. It's good.
The Celtics had one last shot with 3.5 seconds left, and Dee Brown provided the excitement.
Yes!
This was the Celtics' second journey into overtime in the last 5 days, and after trading baskets, Larry Bird sent the Celtics on a game-breaking 11-0 run.
Yes! Bing, bang, boom, boom!
The momentum of the road win provided a great impetus to the team as they proceeded to coast through 5 more victories. The train of success momentarily derailed in Indiana. Detlef Schrempf held off a final Celtic comeback as the Pacers won 101-97. The loss snapped the 7-game win streak for the Celtics, and as it turned out, would be the last regular season game Larry Bird would play this season. When Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls came to town, Larry Bird was on the sidelines due to back spasms. The Celtics clamped down, played great defense for 48 minutes as they held the world champions to the lowest point total of the season, 86 points. John Bagley scored 9 points and dished out 6 assists, including the turning point of the game.
I think we always did feel we can compete. It's just a matter of going out there and doing it, and tonight was just a case of us going out there and doing it.
Without Larry Bird, the entire team knew they had to work harder and improve each other's game. First up was Reggie Lewis in Cleveland. With less than 20 seconds remaining, the Celtics looked for their new go-to guy.
Reggie's pull-up. Yes!
Reggie Lewis made the last 2 of his 38 points on the night as the Celtics held on for a 3-point victory. Next up, an important home game against the Atlantic Division leading New York Knicks. At this point, the Celtics trailed New York by 3 games with only 6 to play. Patrick Ewing was his usual all-star self with 35 points and 10 rebounds, but a concentrated team effort by the Celtics down the stretch with John Bagley at the helm secured the victory.
The turnaround gets the roll.
2 more victories against Milwaukee and Charlotte brought the Celtics within a game of first place as Reggie Lewis began to appear as a dominant NBA scorer. He was also named the NBA's Player of the Week by averaging 28 points and 7 rebounds. The Celtics missed Larry Bird, but Reggie Lewis was coming through.
I just don't want to be known as a player who just play one end of the floor. I want to be known as a player who can play it all.
At the same time, Dee Brown began to miss games once again. The flu he had contracted resulted in a severe case of sinusitis that left him weak and disoriented. In his place, both John Bagley and Sherman Douglas stepped up their play.
Here comes Douglas. Yes, off the pick and roll. Beautifully.
After defeating the 76ers in Philadelphia, the Celtics squandered 2 10-point leads against the Pistons before their man of April came through.
Bagley is open. They give him the shot. Big basket by Bagley.
A final defensive stand gave the Celtics a 92-89 victory and a share of first place in the Atlantic Division. One final obstacle was the 82nd game of the year. The Celtics were at home to face the Miami Heat. It also marked a return to Boston for Brian Shaw, who renewed acquaintances before the game. However, once the game started, Shaw was on the enemy side, and the fans made sure he knew it. Brian finished the game with 11 points, 6 assists, and 3 steals. But the Celtics had a 22-19 rebound effort from Robert Parrish and won the game by 16 to clinch the Atlantic Division title. The Celtics finished the regular season by winning 8 straight games and 15 of the last 16. The absence of Larry Bird and Dee Brown made everyone else step their game up a level or two. but everyone still wanted these two players back for the playoffs. The first-round opponent would be Chuck Person and the Indiana Pacers in a rematch from last year. The Celtics did not want a repeat of having to go 5 games with such a streaky team. We'll have that entire playoff story when we return with Injured Pride, the Boston Celtics in 1991 and 1992, after these messages. The 1992 playoffs brought Chuck Person, Reggie Miller, and the rest of the Indiana Pacers back to Boston with the hope, this time, of defeating the Celtics in a playoff series. The season series stood at 2 games apiece, as each team had won on their home court.
It's a short series. The first series is a short series, and it might be the only series, and then we have home court in the rest of the playoffs, so we got to take care of business.
Game 1 proved to be a continuation of the 1991 series. There were 25 lead changes, 17 ties, and good shooting throughout. Larry Bird and Dee Brown sat out the game, but the Celtics were prepared.
Reggie with McLeod on in. Reggie's going to take it. Oh.
Reggie Lewis led all scorers with 36 points, including the biggest basket of the game.
Reggie Lewis got it! And a foul!
The free throw put the Celtics up by 4 and sparked a 15-2 run to take Game 1 of the playoffs 124-113.
The game turned in about a minute's period, in about a minute. I mean, if we'd have made the right decisions and got a stop, I think we'd have won the game.
Game 2 would prove to be even more exciting than Game 1, courtesy of John Bagley.
Like Bagley, like Gamble, guys who normally don't get that many shots.
Bagley, yes, and it counts. A circus shot for John Bagley.
The Celtics proceeded to fall behind by 12 at the half as Bagley rested for most of the second quarter. Unfortunately, the rifleman just started firing.
Person fires, yes, it's a 3 for Chuck Person.
The Pacers held a 2-point lead through 3, but the combination of John Bagley and Robert Parrish stepped into the limelight.
Bagley with the drive. Parrish with 6 on the shot clock. Parrish, yes, and the game is tied at 1:02.
Chiefs basket sent the game into overtime, where the point guards took over. Michael Williams put the Pacers up by 4 after a long 3-pointer, but then Bagg started an 8-0 run with 2 baskets and 2 assists.
2-point lead, Bagley on the swing, Bagley with the rebound.
You know, I try to do what I can, and if it's called on for me to do that, then that's what I have to step up and try to do. Fortunately, tonight I tried it and it worked, so.
Game 3 would take place on the Pacers' home court, and they still believed that a series victory was possible. However, the Celtics wanted to end this quickly.
Schmitz has it picked off by Gamble as that's the 12th turnover. They go to Pinckney.
Boston had an 18-point lead in the third quarter, but poor field goal shooting and horrendous free throw shooting allowed Indiana back into it.
Will kick it long to Williams.
Reggie Lewis scored at will on his way to 32 points, and Ed Pinckney added 13 points and 14 rebounds as the game drew to a close.
As they strip Bagley, and the Pacers lead by 1, and the Celtics want time. Gives back to Bagley. They swing to Gamble. Yes, and the Celtics get the lead back.
Kevin Gamble started a closing 8-3 run and finished with 17 points. His play over the second half of the season showed people he was more than just a role player on a running team. The Celtics won Game 3 102-98 and sent the Pacers home for a summer without a playoff victory. The next round of the playoffs began at the Richfield Coliseum as the Cleveland Cavaliers hosted the Celtics. Dee Brown was dressed and available for action, but Larry Bird was still on the sidelines trying to fortify his conditioning. Cleveland had only 1 victory against the Celtics on the year, but never had a healthy roster in any of the losses. For Game 1, the same would still hold true. Brad Daugherty was playing despite an ankle sprain. However, he seemed inspired as he exploded for 26 points and 17 rebounds.
Daugherty handles the ball so well.
A 5-point halftime lead became 15 after 3 quarters. And despite Dee Brown's return to action, the Cavaliers rolled to an impressive 101-76 victory. The Celtics suffered their first loss in 12 games and only their second since March 15th. Everyone questioned whether Robert Parrish could handle Brad Daugherty in the series, but Game 2 quickly silenced his critics.
The Chief back to the baseline, and boy, has he got the hot hand.
The Chief delivered 27 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a couple of steals as the Celtics broke open a close game late in the fourth quarter.
That's about as tough a shot as you're ever going to hit.
The two teams traveled to Boston Garden on May 8th for Game 3. Rumors of Larry Bird playing proved false, but the offensive rebounding and Reggie Lewis led the Celtics to a 110-107 victory. Reggie tied his playoff career high with 36 points as he scored 13 down the stretch. Lewis broke a 99-99 tie with a three-point play and then iced the game on the next possession.
Right side, Lewis. Reggie.
The Celtics were now in the driver's seat with a 2-1 lead in the series.
You know, it's not over yet. We still have a long way to go, and we know we can't afford to get comfortable right now because we know Cleveland, they're not going to give up. They're going to be right back, and we have to make sure that we come with our guards up.
Game 4 marked the return of Larry Bird to a Boston Celtic uniform, and although he didn't start the game, there was no doubt when he came into the game that he was ready.
Boston by 1. Bird wide open, top of the key.
The Cavaliers led by 12 at the half, thanks to the inspired play of point guard Mark Price. The smallest man on the court lit the Celtics up for 26 points and 12 assists as he neutralized John Bagley. Larry Nance proved to be a Celtic killer as well by scoring 32 points on 13 of 16 from the field. But his biggest play was a block shot against Robert Parrish late in the fourth quarter. Instead of being up by 4, Boston was tied at 103. After Hot Rod Williams missed 2 free throws with 8 seconds left, Reggie Lewis had one last try in regulation.
Lewis, time running out, no good, overtime.
No foul was called and the teams went into overtime. Cleveland took a 5-point lead thanks to the shooting of Larry Nance. Reggie Lewis was the Celtics star of the day with 42 points and 5 steals and had the ball at the end of the game with the Celtics down by 2.
Down the lane, dishes off to Bird.
Couldn't hit.
Couldn't hit. Loose.
Lewis can't hit.
Wide open.
1 second left. Bagley. Was he fouled? No, the game's over.
The series was now tied at 2 games apiece, but the Celtics were not giving up hope.
This was a big game today. I knew they would play a lot better today than they did in the other games, but it was a challenge for us, and we didn't meet the challenge. They got a few calls down at the end that really helped them, and other than that, we just didn't get the job done.
Game 5 oftentimes is the key game to any playoff series, and this year the same would be true. Larry Bird's showing of 17 minutes and only 4 points in Game 4 had to change. While he did contribute 13 points on 6 for 10 shooting, the hot shooting of the Cavaliers simply crushed the Celtics.
Elo will shoot the 3. It goes.
Craig Elo had 20 points and 13 assists as he rebounded from an awful Game 4 performance of 0 for 9 from the field. The Cavaliers broke away in the third quarter behind the dominant play of Brad Daugherty. His 28 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks proved that he was definitely one of the top 4 centers in the league as the Cavs coasted to a 114-98 win. The Celtics had their backs against the walls for Game 6. They either had to win or go home for the summer. Good signs appeared early when the starting lineup was announced.
And at the other forward from Indiana State, 6'9", number 33, Larry Bird.
Larry was ready to play, and any talk of his demise as a player was premature.
Bird in the lane, left-handed. Larry will bring it up himself. Nance awaits him. Screen from Parrish. Bounce pass. Robert for 2.
Bird gathered 6 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds in the first quarter as the Celtics broke out to a 12-point lead. More importantly, he involved Robert Parrish early and delivered great passes to both Reggie Lewis, who had a game-high 26, and Kevin Gamble. His old partner in the front court, Kevin McHale, seemed rejuvenated with 22 points and 6 rebounds as Boston tied the series with a 31-point victory.
I wouldn't want anyone else in a big game than a guy like Larry Bird on my team and out there playing. And it's a shame that a lot of people have short memories.
My back's not bothering me. I can play about as well as I want to play. The only thing that sometimes I lack is my shooting. In the long run, when you don't play a lot and you come back and you get a little fatigued, your shot starts going short. But as far as playing well, I have a lot of confidence in my ability to play if my back's well. If my back's bothering me, sometimes I don't play as well as I like.
The season had boiled down to one more game. The Cavaliers had been in a seventh game situation only once in their franchise history, back in 1976. On the other hand, the Celtics were masters of the seventh game, winning 17 of 20 since 1957, including 6 of 7 during the Larry Bird era. While experience plays a major role in these type of games, Cleveland showed why they had tied Portland for the second best record in the league. Each one of their top 6 players came out with a ferociousness as they jumped to a 14-point lead in the first. The closest the Celtics would come was a 10-point deficit early in the second period. Brad Daugherty and Mark Price showed the reason they're NBA All-Stars as the team shot 59%. Unfortunately for Boston, their defense could never stop the Cavs.
Nance, who leaves it for Daugherty.
Reggie Lewis struggled early, but finished with 22, and Dee Brown added 18. But more importantly, Larry Bird went 33 minutes and finished with 12 points. No one knew if this would be his last game in a Celtic uniform.